Happy New Year, Internet. Yes, this is Kopitiam Council once again with Hafiz and Adi. Uh, Adi, it's 2025. What's
Yeah.
changed?
Well, if you've been following the last few episodes and suddenly surprised why we're in our kitchen and in the bedroom, well, for any of you that just jumped upon Kopitiam Council from our guest episodes, this is actually how we normally do Kopitiam Council. Unless that I happen to be in KL, then we would be renting the studio over there at KL
Yeah.
Podcast Studio, usually. So if you are new and surprised as to the format, this has always actually been the format that we have been going with for the past year. And so we hope that even though this might not be as expected from the previous three episodes that you've seen, we hope that we can still provide the same level of quality of discussion when it comes to anything current affairs, both local and international, to you as the audience. So 2025, I think we're just going to continue going as is. We might, tune up the formula a bit as we go on along this whole year. As we trudge along, I think we are going to be coming up to our 100th episode very soon, Hafiz. So we
Correct.
will see what kind of little things that we can make. Hopefully, a lot of things in store as well. More guests to come. Definitely excited for that. So that could be our sort of opening for the 2025. So happy New Year, everyone. And we hope to another great year of Kopitiam Council here as we talk about current affairs, both local and international. So Hafiz, back to you.
Well, just before we go into our first topic, I just want to say to all of you that even though our editing may be simple, I think if you can agree with me, Adi, we doing it on purpose as well because we tired of all those beating around the bush and then going into like what we are doing right now. Because most of the time in our episode we just straight away to our topic. But hey, this is our first kind of recording in 2025. We might also remind all of you if you prefer just audio only, because we try to improve our audio game as well as our video game here, so that you can listen Spotify or Apple Podcasts wherever you are, and of course video with short format in TikTok and Instagram. With that out of the way, Adi, recently in the first week of 2025, a prime minister of our neighboring country, Prime Minister Thailand, and her father made a visit to ASEAN due to invitation. What's the invitation for, and what is it about, Adi?
Well, this is mostly, if we're going to talk a bit from Malaysian side, this was a very close interaction between the Thai Prime Minister and our own Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, with Petong Tan Shinawat alongside her father Thaksin, former Prime Minister as well of Thailand. They are discussing things such as the ASEAN, the ongoings of the region. And then this also comes at the heels of Malaysia assuming the ASEAN Chairmanship for 2025. So there's a lot of things riding upon, I think, mostly for our own Prime Minister in trying to position himself as a leader that is to be taken seriously in the ASEAN region. We've seen him making a lot of visits to in Europe right now. I believe he's in London, and he also recently entertained the new Prime Minister of Singapore, Lawrence Wong. So
Japan
definitely,
as well,
yeah. And
and Prime
so
Minister of Japan.
yeah, Prime Minister of Japan as well, which he did mention that he was going to do in Peru alongside South Korea. So a very busy year beginning for our Prime Minister, Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim, trying to position Malaysia as a global leader, not just in terms of leadership in economy, but also the regional developments and ongoings and positioning where the region might go. So this is very, I would say classic PMX here, because he's always been known to play the whole diplomatic game. He has a lot of friends everywhere across the world. He has good friends, good relationships with Turkey, with Erdogan. Now he's always been courting the East Asian region, and then who knows, might be opening more inroads towards China with Beijing. So what can we see from this whole interaction, Hafiz? Because we mentioned Indonesia before, Thailand before. What has really changed so far?
I would like to see this from the angle of how Malaysia, as a host of ASEAN, try to do a balancing act here. A lot of analysts, or political analysts, namely KJ and Shariel, went on and saying that this is such a mistake to bring roping in a Thai counterparts to, you know, as a helper or advisor in this manner as a chairmanship of ASEAN. We should assume the role as a host, you know, proudly without so-called any help from outsiders. But I think what Anwar's doing here is a balancing act of, we know that Malaysia is already very friendly with Singapore, Indonesia, and you might say, I mean, of course, Brunei, because we have that common thing. Either it's language or very similar culture and whatnot. But you cannot be, the same cannot be said about those who are in the Indochina. You know, we don't really have a lot of common with people in Myanmar, Laos, Vietnam, and so on. But who does? The Thais. And Thais is like the big brother of them, you know? So if you want to rope in someone who is a better, or someone that you can deal with these other countries, definitely it's going to be Thai. And in Thailand specifically, is going to be Thaksin Sinawatra. He is the only one that's still alive since Anwar was a deputy prime minister back in the 90s. So they have such a deep relationships going on. And to do this, to help Malaysia, because remember, in ASEAN this year, they're going to be talking a lot to Myanmar so that they can, you know, do their own election and whatnot. In fact, Thailand already been doing it in the first week of December, so that you know, they will support Myanmar to you know, return to democracy, so-called of you know, doing election again. So this is, I think, a balancing act by Anwar to combine, to merge these two so-called hemisphere between the Indochina and the Malay archipelago, of course, including Philippines as well. We don't forget you, Philippines, and so that you know, an action can be done during the ASEAN meeting, other than, you know, keep going back to like, hey, Myanmar feel alienated because, you know, the host nation just keep saying things that you should do, but, you know, not really understanding from their own perspective. And yeah, hence the help that been given, whether it's financial, whatever, doesn't really being effective at all, despite what they know on paper. So I think it's a really brilliant move by Anwar to rope in Thaksin Sinawat, a man that who knows, you know, especially not just in Thai, but at least in Indochina region. Would you agree with that?
I think to an extent I would, mostly because of the experience that Thaksin had throughout his tenure as the former prime minister. However, I think we have to see the criticisms here, because I think the criticisms are valid with the prime minister appointing Thaksin as an informal advisor for the ASEAN chair. This, you have to look at Thaksin's character as well. This is an individual that, just to make it politely, would have been an individual that Anwar would have opposed when Anwar was very pro reformasi, when he was still on the whole train of reformasi and trying to go for corruption-free government and all that. So, I mean, it's classic politicking here. I mean, and it's all utilitarian, of course. Anwar has to kind of set aside some of his ideas for the sake of utility, for the sake of the pragmatism, which Malaysia's foreign policy is consistent with. So Anwar having to be engaging with an individual with a past that is quite shady, and then somehow having his daughter becoming a prime minister as well, and then being roped into her own set of scandals right now. I think there's a lot of things going around with her in terms of property investment and you know, a lot of messy businesses that we in Malaysia are very accustomed and very familiar with. It's the same old story. Thailand also has its own fair share of situations like this. So Anwar, putting aside or having one eye shut to what is going on domestically in Thailand speaking, to allow someone with experience, whether or not that experience is good or bad is really up to you to decide, is also telling of what Prime Minister Anwar's foreign policy in terms of Malaysia's approach is going to be, is that it's going to maintain that pragmatic approach. It's going to be utilitarian. It's going to make sure that at the end of the day, that there would be a net benefit for Malaysia, whether it be economy, whether it be security. So that is the approach that we have to consider when Anwar is going for courting the Indochina region with Thailand, and at the same time having Singapore and Indonesia at the back door as well to bolster or even give more support to Malaysia's chairmanship. Because I think the natural axis of Malaysia's chairmanship will garner support from Indonesia, Singapore, now Thailand, Philippines as well. But that depends on how good the relationship has been so far. I think it's quite cordial, but there's just a lot of uncertainties. There's a lot of things that we don't really know about, and I think the foreign service as well, when it comes to interacting with neighbors in, okay, maybe Vietnam could say the same extent as Thailand, but countries such as, like you said, Myanmar, Laos, Cambodia as well, and Thailand is the perfect gateway to enter that. They have a more closer cultural tie, I guess, a bit more similar experiences as well, and similar roots as well. So they can identify with each other easier than Malaysia trying to identify with people in Cambodia or in Myanmar. So that would be a great move from our Prime Minister here to situate Malaysia with a natural ally that could somehow convince or even sway over the other countries in that region. But at the same time, this is going to be a very pivotal moment for Prime Minister here, because he has put on himself a very big task in trying to unite ASEAN, in trying to pursue the centrality of ASEAN. He has talked about it many times before, that ASEAN has to be the premier organization, interregional organization, that is able to resolve conflicts within Southeast Asia, not just conflicts, but also economic disparities and other security issues that have been plaguing the region. And Myanmar will be on the table. So we're going to have to see Prime Minister playing a different ball game in terms of foreign policy, becoming a bit more assertive and becoming a bit more guided in trying to convince the other ASEAN countries to pursue more than just what has been done with regards to Myanmar, but at the same time in other regions such as the South China Sea. So these are things that that any incoming ASEAN chair in the future would be dealing with, and Malaysia is no different. So this will be a great paradigm for Anwar to cement himself as a foreign leader as well, because I think in terms of domestic, he has cemented himself in what kind of leader he has chosen to be, and this has given him the better opportunity to show what kind of foreign leader he chooses to be.
Yeah, definitely. And, just want to remind everyone here that hosting ASEAN as a chairmanship of ASEAN is just going to be 12 months, just a year. So I think as much as we think this is something very crucial, that is a big deal, Malaysia is the host, but also it's going to happen very fast. So I don't think Anwar has a lot of luxury in terms of time and, strategy to waste on, going to overthinking about like who he wants to appoint as advisor. After all, an advisor is a very informal position. It's not something that's going to be in the decision making. It's going to be the Malaysia decision making. We still have the options to follow whatever Thaksin going to say towards the meeting in ASEAN again. So in terms of that, I think that's pretty much clear. But what remains to be seen is that how other countries, now that I just wanna include this a little bit, because we're gonna talk about this in the next topic as well, which is the recently signed Johor Singapore Special Economic Zone, which is I don't know how it will impact the dynamic of, because you mentioned about relationship again with Vietnam and Indonesia, because this is sort of rivalry to Vietnam in the north and on the Indonesia in the west. So certainly this will be like, hey, what are you guys doing here? Sort of the kind of nuance that will be given during the meeting. So I think more importantly, how we're gonna handle our neighboring countries, so that it's gonna be a cooperation, not competition. I think that's kind of vibe needs to be rippled through every ASEAN countries. Otherwise, we're gonna be like, hey, are you trying to stealing my pot or whatever? This is a pot to be shared with. It's a reminder for all of us. I think that should be the contentions for Anwar going in as a host nation, because if Anwar is seen to be like using ASEAN to leverage certain countries only, like Malaysia or Thailand or Singapore, and then that would be like another disagreement that they have against BRICS, because some countries, they don't even care about BRICS because they have nothing to gain from joining BRICS, and they will not. But certain countries like Indonesia, hey, they already accepted in the first week of January, the first ASEAN country to be accepted as a BRICS member. That's congratulations to them. But Malaysia is still in the progress. So countries like Brunei would like, okay, we have no interest in BRICS. Why are we even talking about BRICS? Is it concerning every member of the ASEAN? No, right? So why it should be on the agenda? So it's kind of thing that will be a rise, and when it happens, Anwar, I think, should uh, needs to be very delicate with it, and try to rally the members that this is for all greater good for all ASEAN, not just for certain countries, but for all 10 ASEAN members. Yeah.
I think when it comes to the positioning that Anwar is taking, because, like I said, he's been making the rounds all over the world, becoming a very active representative of Malaysia. So it'll be exciting to see, with the luxury of being in the ASEAN Chairmanship, what kind of focuses that he wants to make. Because even though it's only a year, Indonesia was able to make quite a significant effort when it comes to leading ASEAN and trying to bolster more unity. And at the same time, hot off the heels of what the 5-point consensus was in terms of Myanmar. So Anwar is able to finally walk the talk here with assuming leadership position in ASEAN. And I think a lot of effort can be made in that regard. The foreign service in Malaysia has been very robust. The Prime Minister is someone that is very well versed in foreign affairs, much more so compared to the last two prime ministers that we've had. So this is a very good opportunity for Malaysia to re-establish its position as a country that is to be taken seriously in the region as well. Of course, the economic position that we have always gave us some of that luxury, but of course, Indonesia is always going to be a much more bigger powerhouse in that regard. Same with the Philippines, Vietnam, and Thailand. So this is I think cooperation is necessary, but I think it also does give us some competitive edge. Hafiz, I'm not one to brag here, but if the opportunity is there, I believe that the Prime Minister should make full use of it with what he's doing right now, attracting investors, trying to play every side that he can to ensure that there's shared prosperity for all. Even just today, trying to, I don't know if this was an intentional way to cozy up to the new US President Donald Trump, congratulating him for attributing responsibility to Donald Trump for the ceasefire in Gaza right now. So we're going to expect to see a lot more of Anwar on that front, going to be more active on that, as he has always been for the past 400 plus days on it. So, having that gravitas also of ASEAN chairmanship would also amplify that even more, because Anwar has been saying it since day one. He's been saying it in Germany. He's been saying it in the UN. I was not wild speculation to say that he would say it in ASEAN as well. I mean, he would in the meetings, but I mean, as finally a representative of the ASEAN chair. So, like I said, this is the perfect opportunity for Anwar to show himself as a foreign, as a foreign leader, a leader of international affairs. So that's what I can say.
Yeah, talking about the ceasefire in Gaza, we will be talking about that, but not in this episode, but in the future episode, which is next week. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe if you haven't already. So going back to Anwar and the roles within ASEAN, I think I agree with you. This is a golden opportunity for Malaysia to do whatever that is necessary can to bring as much as we can, and it's just a right momentum, because Anwar as a salesman going around the world. It's not just started this month. It's been started, I think, since the early last year. So he's already can see the momentum, and going into 2025 straight away go to UK, Dubai again. All these countries lining up for him to do some deals there. So certainly an exciting moment for Malaysia, not just as the host, but how we can actually, the people eventually, right? The people can feel it on the ground, so that there will be jobs available for them. And of course, the economy will follow up. with the creation of jobs in there. So I think that's it for the ASEAN episode today. So that of course, we're going to talk a lot about ASEAN again this year, since we are the host, and please keep an eye on that. And how do we keep an eye on that? It's just subscribe to our YouTube channel. All right. So see you guys in the next episode.